All right, like to subscribe to all that. You know what time it is. It's Netflix time. This movie's called In for a Murder. It's an hour 44 minutes long. Spoiler alert. Let's just get it. So we start with a dude named Thomas and his kids playing chess. His wife Magna comes home picking up the groceries. They're supposed to be going bike riding, but he's waiting on her to come home. Apparently, he just wanted to make sure the kids weren't running across the damn grass. Later on, he comes home for dinner and he's like literally complaining about everything. I don't know if he's just being a snob or just being an asshole. Well, anyway, she cleaned up the house and she gets his jacket. Finds a receipt for some perfume in there. Later on, while she's walking the dog, she calls up her homegirl. She tells her about the perfume receipt. She thinks Thomas is cheating on her. Because apparently on the receipt, it was like 2 weeks ago, so it's like she still ain't got it yet. While she's walking, she loses track of the dog, so she's trying to find the dog. But she ends up finding this girl laying there dead as shit. The person leading the investigation is this detective named Jason. So they got a little bit of history. Now basically what she does now is just stay home and watch after the kids, make sure they good. But apparently before she used to be a veterinarian and also a forensic specialist. So basically now she's just butting in on the case. But Jason's like, alright man, let me do my damn job. So they end up finding out the dead woman goes by the name of Johanna. Next day the family goes to this little family function. And then these parents come up and start talking to Magna. Turns out they're the parents of this lady by the name of Veronica. But it's not spelled with a V, it's spelled with a W. Why it's pronounced Veronica, I have no idea. So as the family's going to get ice cream later on, this doctor comes in that she knew from the past. Apparently he's the main veterinarian at this place, and he's trying to offer her a job to come back. But at this point in time, she's just happy being a housewife. At least that's what we're led to believe. So when the veterinarian leaves, she ends up looking at this poster of this guy named Robert is supposed to be a psychic therapist. And then we get a flashback. Turns out a while ago, she actually went to this guy Robert for help. He was actually trying to find the girl Veronica. Turns out that was her best friend. But he couldn't help her because she didn't have enough money. So you can see how young Magna is. Apparently this Veronica girl's been missing for 15 years. Then we get this scene where Thomas is playing tennis with this young chick named Susan. And the family's just there chilling. So Susie's with this guy. And apparently the whole reason Thomas is even playing tennis with her in the first place is to impress his boss. He actually works for this guy named Jay. That's what we're going to call him right now because I can't pronounce his full name. Later on they invite the couple over to their house for dinner. And they start looking at photos on the TV. Turns out one of the pictures, she actually took a picture with Johanna. But what she really noticed is that the fact that Johanna had a W necklace around her neck. And she assumes it's the same one Veronica had. So when she went upstairs for a second, she came back down, the couple left. Thomas was pissed off and he went to sleep. So she thinks it's the same necklace because it's designed exactly like her necklace. It's just a fucking W. Anybody can make that shit like that, right? So she goes to Jason and explains everything I just told you. Acts like he was doing all this research, but he really wasn't. And she ends up giving him the photos, you know, for evidence and all that. Later on, she goes over to her best friend's house, and she tells her how to get to the location of this one jewelry spot in town. So she goes to the spot, and quite honestly, it looks raggedy as hell, like it's been burnt down. But I guess that makes sense if you got expensive jewelry, you know, some undercover shit. She knocked on the door, but nobody answers. She goes in and sees all these nice, expensive jewelry and pieces. Then the guy comes to her and scares her, but he has like a fake gun. She shows him her necklace, but he says he's only ever made one letter of the alphabet. He's never made double copies. So it might be a forgery or a duplicate. But I'm thinking to myself, this can't be the only jewelry spot in the entire fucking town. Then they gotta get his dog to the hospital because he accidentally ate some chocolate. And of course they go to the vet where she used to work at. And the office of Dr. Biker Boy. He thinks she's trying to come back to the practice, but this is only a one-time thing. So she goes to the police station to find Jason. She sees him riding out, so she starts following him. She follows him to this house way in the cut. Then we find another guy dead as shit. Turns out it was some drunk named Stefan. Now she said the only person she saw in the park was Stefan when she found that chick Johanna dead. But she don't believe he murdered anybody. Now the detective thinks he just drunk too many booze and fell off the balcony, but she thinks he was thrown off the balcony. Nevertheless, they need help with this. So they end up paying a visit to the guru, Mr. Robert. He doesn't really tell them a whole lot of anything. Of course, his prices are up, you know what I'm saying? And of course, Mada shows up also. Then they get into an argument about her husband about the perfume. And then apparently some sheik is supposed to be coming into town. Supposed to be a parade for him and everything. Well, anyway, she goes back to the house, she digs in the trash, finds the receipt, and puts it in a random cookbook. Then she goes back to her friend's house where she suspects her husband's cheating on her. Yeah, she does all these mystical things. She's a conveyor of peace. Then Jason turns out, we find out that's Magna's best friend's brother. They were talking about the case more, and all of a sudden Thomas calls. She's got the Pink Panther theme as his ringtone. So Jason drops her off at home. He's like, you riding on mopeds or strange dudes? What the fuck going on? So it's not no strange dudes, just Jason. He gave me a ride because he think my life might be in danger. And he laughs at the shit like, who the fuck would endanger you? So later on, she goes back to the veterinarian doctor and she actually wants to do a job for him. He gets a call from a customer and tells her dog is sick at a certain address, so he tells her to hop to it. But as she goes to this house, she realizes that Jason's there too for whatever reason. Then we find out Jason speaking to this guy named Bruno. Now Bruno's a very rich man. He's about to be elected for governor. And there's his wife Natasha. Now you thinking to yourself, what's Jason doing there? Well, apparently a while ago they had a little political party there where Johanna was last seen. Natasha said she came in there with some dude from the banking exchange. She said they were drunk and they were having an argument about something. But no, it looked like she was mad at him. She looked like she was mad at somebody else. Then next thing you know, she turns up dead. So as he goes outside for a second to clear his head, he finds Magna hiding out in the damn corner. So Bruno shows her the dog she's supposed to be taking care of. But she's kind of scared of it and she's like, man, fuck that shit. So she ends up dipping out. But why's Natasha looking at her like that? What's going on here? Nevertheless, she gets a pizza and goes about her business. But who's this dude that black fly on her? Following her, my bad. So she thinks she's getting chased, and this is like the slowest run cycle I've ever seen. Trust me, it's fucking ridiculous. So she tries to call Jason, but he was just trying to give her back her change. Why didn't he just yell like, hey, excuse me, miss, you forgot your change? He didn't say shit, he was just walking behind her. I'm like, really, dude? All this is going on, Jason comes back, but he ain't coming there for nothing. He does have a suspect. It was the dude that was with Johanna at the party, but he don't really know shit except where she used to work at. So apparently she used to work at a hairdresser. So she goes in there and gets some information about what her name really was, and that's when they found out her name was Johanna. I know I was skipping ahead when I said the name, but this is when they actually found out. Then of course Jason pops up, and then Thomas calls her phone, but she don't even pick that shit up. Instead, her and Jason got a plan. So we realized that today is the funeral, and they ended up going as husband and wife. After the funeral, they basically talked to everybody like they knew her well. She brings it up like, yeah, me and Johanna were just more like acquaintances. So she actually used the bathroom, but obviously sneaks into Johanna's room. So she's looking at pictures and she finds out Veronica and Johanna were best friends. Magna didn't even know that shit. But Johanna's mom was trying to figure out, what you doing in here? I thought you was going to the bathroom. She didn't even think they know Johanna like that, so basically she claims there's a thief. So that's what they claim, but she's like, look man, I ain't stealing shit. She gets Jason to get up out of there. Jason's dumbass furred. Hella drunk. Anyway, they take Jason back to the crib, put him to sleep. Afterwards, she starts walking. She had promised earlier she was going to make her way over to Veronica's parents' house. Then we found out Veronica wasn't missing. She had run away from her parents because she ended up getting pregnant. She was scared of her dad because the person that knocked her up was not her husband, just some random dude. And she basically ran away, and she's been gone for 15 years now. So she didn't know Veronica or Johanna were friends. She didn't know Veronica was pregnant. You don't know a lot about your best friend, huh? So after she leaves, she thinks a car's following her. Then she bumps into the doctor again and gives her a ride home. And of course, Biker Boy's got a bike too. Thomas like, man, it's starting to get ridiculous, all these bikes. And she jokes with him like, you know what? I'm having an affair. Fuck out of here. But as she's about to get ready to cook, he's like, nah, I'm taking you out to dinner. So while he's at dinner, he gives her a present. He ends up giving her some perfume. The same perfume with the receipt she found 2 weeks ago. So they about to order some dessert, but then we find out this Mr. J was actually paying for their food. So she starts thinking about the perfume, she thinks about the girl Suzanne, and walks the fuck out. Next day, he's actually volunteering to take the kids to school, do all this other stuff. He's acting like he wants to do a bunch of chores around the house, so she's thinking to herself, something's up, something's up. She looked for the receipt in the cookbook, which is completely gone. So she's thinking to herself, he probably just saw the receipt and got himself another thing of perfume. And she's thinking to herself, the first thing of perfume probably went to Suzanne or something. So I guess she gets an anonymous tip and she goes to the racetrack. Then she meets this lady that happens to be Jay's ex-wife. Then she talks to her and asks her about Veronica and Joanna, my bad. And she knew her husband was cheating around. They do a little bit more digging. Then we find out who Veronica was actually pregnant by. She was actually impregnated by Bruno. Oh shit. And she has a flashback about Ben being on the track. That shit is crazy. But in real time, she sees Bruno, Natasha, and Jay all up on the Raptor. So she talks to Jason one more time, and then she's thinking to herself, Veronica might really be dead. It makes sense to her because you think to yourself, well, why kill Johanna? So even though they figure out Bruno impregnated Veronica, they still need evidence. Basically, they gotta find a body. So they go to Robert the Guru to help on this one. He's willing to help out because now it's a police matter. So Bruno's having another one of his parties, I guess a soiree for his governorship. And Robert's got this tracker, I guess he's trying to sense some spirits or something. He gets closer to this certain bush, then Bruno just stops him in his tracks. Tells him it's proper property and all that shit, so you know, they gotta stop their search. But then Bruno comes back on later on that night. He comes back and he starts digging. But when he's digging, there's a light shine on him. Turns out Jason was waiting on him the entire time so he could catch him in the act. They end up locking up Bruno for questioning. So Jason's about to do his interrogation. Of course, Magna can't go in there. But he does leave the door cracked so she can hear what's going on. So Bruno explains his story. He said when he got back in the house, because he was smashing Veronica and he did get her pregnant, he came back and saw her at the bottom of the steps dead as shit. He said she must have fell down the stairs. But then Jason asked him, why did you say nothing? He didn't feel like they would believe him. So that's why he buried her. So now she knows for sure she's dead. There's something about this story that don't seem quite finished. Then all of a sudden she sees Suzanne at the station for some reason. They in the bathroom. She's powdering herself and then she pulls out perfume. The same perfume Magna got. So now it's confirmed. Thomas definitely gave her the first perfume. So basically she goes to her friend confirming that yeah, he's definitely been cheating on me. Because why even buy some expensive perfume for somebody else if you ain't even fucking with him like that? You know what I'm saying? So I guess after that she's supposed to go out Jay's house and treat the dog again. Bruno's house, my fault. But it turns out the door's open and she slightly creeps in. And all of a sudden we hear Jay and Natasha talking amongst themselves. Like what the heck is Jay doing in there? And then we get the real story. So she already knew Bruno was cheating on her with Veronica, right? In fact, she had came home one time and Veronica was still there. She was so pissed off, she just had enough. And she ended up tossing Veronica down the steps. And that's how she got there, did this shit. Now, the reason Jay's there, he was supposed to get some money to keep this shit quiet. But it hasn't come through in his end yet. Then there's more to Natasha's story. So at the party, Johanna knew what the fuck happened to Veronica. And she was threatening to expose Bruno for all this shit. That's what she was yelling about. And Natasha was like, oh, fuck no. So basically, when they left that night, Johanna left by herself drunk. Natasha was actually following her. And then Johanna got done deal. Then she stabbed her with a fucking ice pick. So there you go, Natasha killed both ladies. Done dealed with all that shit. So she heard the confession literally in the other room. Then all of a sudden they hit a Pink Panther theme. Her husband calls her at the wrong time. And then she's just standing there like, yeah, so you want me to take care of the dog? And then the chase is on. She's actually running this time. And the person they had chased there actually was the pizza man. Apparently he's got 2 jobs. Then she's running and she gets into this parade of people. A limo comes through and all of a sudden this Sheik shows up. But to be unnoticed, she sneaks inside the car. And we find out the Sheik ain't really a Sheik at all. Turns out it's actually Robert. The thing is with his guru sessions, he ain't getting no money like that. He was actually a small-time banker before he became this scientific guru or whatever. And on top of that, he's not really good at that shit. She says, well, technically you are kind of a guru because you were pointing in the actual direction of Veronica's body. So she gives him hope and faith to continue his practices. So anyway, she got back out the car and this motherfucker just shows up. She takes pictures of him and sends it to Jason. And also sends it to the doctor. He ends up chasing her all the way to her friend's fashion show or whatever she's doing. She runs around the back, but Jay finds her. The dude ends up getting his ass whooped by this lady. Jason comes up, but he don't even bother to arrest him. He's like, all right, he got his ass whooped. Time to go find Magna. Meanwhile, they put her back in the cage with the dog that she's scared of and throw away the key. Then the boys come through with the real cops about to get both of them niggas, Jay and Tasha. Calms the dog down, they get her out the cage, all they think they're all good and gravy. Later on, Jason gives her Veronica's necklace back, but she tells him to keep it, the case is done. And she might have some feelings towards Jason, for real. So she's basically waiting on her husband to get home. She has his suitcase packed and tells him to get the fuck out. You cheating piece of filth. Then she goes on a ride with her bike and enjoys life. And there you go, a murder mystery, done deal, and it's great. There's some stupid parts in it, but other than that, it was great. And for a murder on Netflix, check it out, like, click, subscribe, do all that, you know the time of this, look easy on the easy, miss, big, could have got a slogan.